Now I have a taste of existence. What's a better existence or a great existence?
Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, where world changing spiritual entrepreneurs come to deeply awaken the power within to bring forth their greatest purpose, while enjoying being in tune with all life and real wealth in all aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Daniel John Hanneman. And welcome everybody to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. I'm so grateful you're here. We've got an amazing show for you. Oh my goodness, our guest today has a phenomenal wisdom and knowledge of all kinds of things, Ascension. He really does. I mean, so I can't wait to dive in with him. He seems like an old friend already, probably that past life thing and all that, old tribe, soul brother or whatever. So I'm so grateful to have you here today, Jonathan.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here, Daniel.
Okay. All right. Let me share a little bit more about Jonathan before we jump in. As a mentor, speaker, and consultant, Jonathan Mosenter is deeply rooted in reverence for how everything in life serves our evolution. Individual and group transformation shines as his biggest passion. In addition to working 25 plus years in the field of change management and obtaining an MBA from Boston University, Jonathan has also studied with masters and gained experience in numerous esoteric areas, including epigenetics, Tibetan, I pronounced this earlier today, Vajrayana, right? Buddhism.
Vajrayana, yeah.
Vajrayana. I should have asked you, Vajrayana, Buddhism. I thought I had it nailed earlier today. I'm like, I've got that one. Conscious language, shadow work, chi energy cultivation, integral theory, human design, and gene keys. He's got a unique blend of these lineages, like all that knowledge and wisdom I'm talking about. You guys are going to be fascinated, hanging on his every word. I want to say enables participants to be one with their heart and soul. As a spiritual stack master, I was fascinated with that idea. Jonathan helps clients weave meaning that both rewrites the past and curates the necessary energy shifts to be guided towards their brightest future. This guidance, known as Christ consciousness, which my listeners probably know I'm all about, is at the core of what Jonathan activates in those he serves. After witnessing the life-changing impact of this ability in his own life, Jonathan is committed to sharing this deeper connection to life with the world. So, all right, well, let's talk about this. I talk about this heaven on earth frequency all the time. And I've never been a big guy, though, to talk ascension. I actually don't use that word a lot. I do use it, drop it in here. Oh, it's all part of the ascension because that's where people are ever listening for that kind of thing, right? So sometimes
Yep.
I'll throw it in, but a lot of times I don't because a lot of the ideas around ascension, I think, are all over the place, and we're ascending. Our vibration's going higher. No, it's real ascension is like we're going to leave our bodies or actually maybe take our bodies with us to go to the other side. And what's going to happen is there's going to be a big flash, and all of a sudden we're in another dimension. Oh no, we flash into another new Earth, and now we're living that Earth, and we've actually done that 5,000 times already in the last 2 weeks, but you just didn't know it, and we're all in this whole new Earth. And wait a minute, it's this, it's that. There's so many concepts, just like enlightenment and all these other words too. We have a
Yes.
lot of concepts around them. So I'm going to have to start with the main question. What the heck is ascension anyway, from your perspective, Jonathan?
Great question. I strongly agree that there's a wide-ranging opinions on this topic, and I want to ground it in kind of reality. So I consider myself someone who's deeply grounded, but also, you know, touches heaven and operates in between. And it's taken me a while to cultivate those abilities. So I don't think there is an easy definition. So I kind of break it into like categories. I just did a presentation on this, was on March 30th, where I talked about them. And so there are different ways. First, I would say if I had to make it simple, Ascension is just about the process of growth and development. But there are different flavors of growth and development. And what you spoke to about different opinions on that is getting at that. There are different ideas around it. But there is kind of like a stairway to heaven. There's a hierarchy, and they're different. If you know some of the more subtle distinctions, and really it's about studying life. Yes, I've studied with a lot of different people, but my greatest teacher is life. Because
Mhm.
a teacher or a book can say something, but if it's not validated by my actual experience, it doesn't hold anything for me. So I have to I test everything that I say and do. So one of the Ascension tools that I think one of the things I'd like to talk about with it is maybe we could talk about different ways people ascend. And
Right.
one of the things I think that I can really offer your listeners is not only these distinctions, so they understand. A lot of people are focused on maybe one or two of them, but understand what are the broad range, and then maybe what are the high leverage ones. Because
Yeah.
while I teach a lot of them, I do focus on a couple of them because they're like dominoes. So you know how like in a math equation there might be a multiplier. So maybe I'll start there. I want to start with what I think is maybe the most
Yeah.
important part is actually talking
Let's do
about
that.
and
If,
go ahead.
yeah, I just wanted to
Let me
interrupt
interrupt. Yeah.
before we get started at that because I definitely want to hear in depth all that information.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say, like with what you already said, like I love that what you said about ascension is that because I feel the same way, I feel like
Mm,
I'm similar. Like I am not, up in the ethers all day and all that stuff. Like I know how to be that way. I could live that way if actually was my calling or what I felt was like the way to be, right? Like it's not that's not an issue, but what because I've been in those states, right? Like you have or whatever, like a lot of us
yeah.
and it's like, okay, I can be, but I was totally ungrounded, really. I was very ungrounded. So for me, like this idea of like being in the middle, like the way you put it, I don't know if that's the same as the middle path. That's a whole nother conversation, but
Mm,
it's probably not exactly the same. But it's like it's being in that place where you're firmly on the earth, but you're completely accessing the higher vibrational nature of who we are as well, right? And so I love that you said that. I love that you said my greatest teacher is life because that's one of my mantras. I've always shared that with my students. I've always said, ultimately for me, my greatest teacher is life. Whenever I slip off of that, I start thinking, oh my God, there's wisdom and knowledge and all these teachers and books and stuff. And man, I lose my way fast. I really do. I
yeah.
have to, even though I do all those things, it's like I have to lay way off of that stuff. I feel like I'm in a way better place of connection and empowerment and enlightenment when I'm not looking at what's out there and oh my God, I should probably learn something more or something like so I just wanted to comment on that before we dived into
Great.
the
Yeah. No.
I think like we're constantly chasing after something, a high, let's get high, let's go up to the higher get out of our bodies finally get this thing over with like and then we got rather than enjoying like this infinite meal that we get to experience right here in this place, right? And then this whole thing about we need to learn, we need to seek, and like we've that's definitely not ascension either. So I just wanted to comment that I totally agree, man. No wonder we connect.
Yeah, yeah. We connected right away. I feel it's a very kinship vibration. I liked your past life comment. I got tickled by that. But yeah, I think maybe something, maybe purpose and meaning, I think is at one place that a lot of people like some people say we're in a meaning crisis. I've heard some important spiritual teachers,
Yeah.
and that's one thing I've resolved for myself. And I feel like I've done a lot of introspection and deep thinking around like meaning, and I want to talk about two things that really shaped my life, which is one question I had, which was like, how can anything exist? And I went so deep on that one, I came to an actual conclusion, which is I'll never know the answer to that. Because every time I came up with a solution, I'd always be like, well, what created that? And then what created, and it was like a never-ending domino. At some point, I was like, I don't think that one's answerable. So I don't know how you get around that one. But then I came to this other question, which I thought was really interesting. It's like, well, if let's say creation is default, right? If is there a primordial question being asked? And this is going to align with a lot of philosophers. So in some ways, it's not new, but for me, it grounds me. which is if you're nothing experiencing itself, maybe the first question would be like, what is it like to exist? Like I don't,
Mhm.
and I kind of orientate from that. So then I
Mhm.
would assume the next question would be like, okay, now I have a taste of existence. What's a better existence or a great existence? And so I kind of orient from that is kind of the purpose, at least from my perspective, and I believe in respectful dialogue. I think one of the big issues. I'm a big fan of individual ascension, but also collective ascension. I feel like a next step for collective ascension would we get along a little bit better.
Yeah.
We could finally end war. What if so I have my vision is that we're all God, and like I think, for example, Jesus, I think, was way ahead of his time. I think he knew that he was God, and he was trying to tell us, hey, we're all God. But he was a
Mhm.
prophet. He got there before because he was super brilliant,
Mhm.
and I think we're all God talking to each other to know what it means to be alive, and that's what I think this is. And when you ground on that, it kind of brings a little bit of respect to everyone else. It's like, oh, that's kind of me in another form. Um, and also I think one thing I wanted to say about that was about getting back to I want to tie it into my what I was talking about before, because one of the things that I want to talk about, I've studied a lot of stuff, but something inside me is I want to drill you down on the two most important areas for ascension, because these two, if you get these two right, it makes everything else a little bit easier. And I'll be curious to, you're a very advanced teacher too, so I'll be curious to hear your perspective on that. And the two areas are energy and the mind. And they kind of go together, and people don't always get that, but there's something happens when if you identify what I learned through meditation, and I know you're really into meditation too. You ask like the question, like, who am I? And this is one of the Vajrayana teachings that I learned, was asked that then during the first retreat, they asked a important question like, who are you? And they kind of broke the mind into parts. And I kind of came to this conclusion that I was actually the observer and maybe the space and not any of the other stuff. And when I
Mhm.
disidentified from all my stories about myself, I was able to transform a lot faster because I was stuck in some loops, some stories that I didn't realize.
Mhm.
So I'm feeling the need to pause there. I was just wondering, I know you do some meditation too. Is that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's how I am with meditation. Is I just look to connect more fully with the observer or the space or whatever, and um, I remember, yeah, when I first started, I couldn't barely, I couldn't get my mind to stop, right? And
Hmm.
so I always tell people, don't tell me you can't meditate, because I could have came to that conclusion, in the beginning too. I can't stop my mind. It's a runaway train. Don't tell me I can meditate. I'm just sitting here thinking the whole time. I was that person. I mean, I was that way in the beginning. And then, after practice, it's not that way anymore. You keep connecting more and more with that space, with the observer mind. And what I'm trying to say is that, first of all, do just meditate, okay? Just get over it. You'll never regret it, okay? I mean, your mind might, but your noisy mind might, but nothing else will. You want to come into that state. You'll enjoy it, is my point. And so for me, yeah, I used to be concerned, like when for a long time, probably in the beginning, like, but I'm having thoughts, but I'm having thoughts, when I go into meditation. And then I start realizing, like, it literally does not matter. Like, I literally can just sit there, and whatever's happening is happening. If it's totally still, it's fine. If there's so-called thoughts going on, or whatever the hell that is, really, in a way, right? Like, it's just okay, whatever, it's there. Um, but I don't have to keep engaging in a thought, right? So it's just, I don't get to. I used to be really strict, like, and if I feel, and if I'm in the mood, I could do it now, I guess, but I never seem to care about it so much anymore. But okay, I'm gonna go as silent as I can, and like, really double down on that intention. But for me, yeah, the primary thing is just let go and surrender into the observer and the space, and that's the practice. It's not, there's many ways to meditate, many things you can do in meditation, right? But That's my favorite.
Great. Everything you brought up is awesome. So I had an interesting background. I too like super speedy mind. I was on ADD medication before I started meditating. I got off my ADD medication and all my medications eventually because I learned a lot of the roots of my physical problems were psychological. And as I resolved those, I didn't need the medications. But I want to get back to, I think you said something really important because I think there's a lot of misunderstandings about meditation and so
Mhm.
you mentioned Vajrayana Buddhism. So just a little bit of context. In Buddhism, there's three different turnings. So each turning represents a major upgrade in the technology. So the Vajrayana is the third turning teachings. And I actually consider myself part of a family which I would call the fourth turning teachers, which is the people who are taking the Vajrayana Buddhism um, insights and building on it. So as you said, mentioned, I'm a psycho-spiritual stacker. The goal isn't is the goal to be a quiet mind. Depends on where you are in the path. I think the goal is to see it as a process. So there's one kind of meditation that most people associate with meditation, which is to have your mind quiet.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but thoughts are useful. It's not like we're trying to get rid of
Yeah.
thoughts all the time. It's actually, where are the thoughts coming from? So this is maybe one of the most important insights that I
Mhm.
ever had, which is that I learned that my thoughts were actually a defense pattern at some point in my spiritual journey, whether you want to go from my child in this life or if you want to be like past lives. I'm a believer of past lives, so I believe that it's both. I think the wounds that you don't resolve in a past life, then you work on them in this life until you resolve them. And so this patterning, um, so it's really important we get over identified. Can you imagine like let's just being a baby and you're being terrified by something? It could be just something like your parents saying you're bad or wrong and you just you want to kill yourself as a baby and some party's like, hey, it's not your time to die yet. And that creates a pattern to way of dealing with that. And it's very primordial. And one of the most important things I've ever learned is that until I started to access these subtle things and disidentify with that pattern, I didn't know that I was living through like a filter, like almost like I was going to the eye doctor and I was seeing everything through this defense pattern. And it shaped everything about my life. It was affecting everything, and I had no idea it was there until I started to meditate. So really, the goal isn't totally just to quiet the mind. It's actually to disidentify with the parts. And as you become the I am or the observer and the space, you're allowed to see those more subtle thoughts. And then you can start to clean your filter out. And then you can start to have more pure perception. And then this is where it ties into energy. So this I got from my energy teacher. You mentioned epi-energetics, my teacher, Donnie Epstein. He had this really important distinction that helped me understand meditation more than my meditation teachers in some ways. He just broke it down. He said there's two kinds of energies, unbound and bound. I mean, in this distinction. And bound just means a form, anything that's already got like a thought, a feeling, a perception, a person, anything you can label or describe as bounded. But if it's unbound, it's like pure energy.
Yeah.
And so when you do still the mind, even for a microsecond, or there's other ways to do this. It's not the only way to evoke unbound energy, but that's one way. The unbound energy allows for novelty and it
Mm.
allows for new ways of thinking of things, higher ways of thinking of things, and it allows for transformation and change. So one of the key things I teach all my students is different tools and techniques, both energy and meditation, so that they can start seeing their life different. So it's not about what my style of teaching isn't like, hey, this is the truth. It's more like I'm going to point out some distinctions, some patterns about life, so you can clear your own ends. So, anyways,
Mm. Nice. That's
yeah.
great. Yeah. I mean, that's got kind of unique from what things I've encountered from other teachers and whatnot. So let's talk about that. I mean, mostly in the I don't know, a lot of this life, I just feel like no teachers, like again, other than life, right? But yeah, like I said, I have had teachers, I've had guides, mentors, whatever along the way. But but what am I trying to say is that a lot of the idea was like I remember being in the meditation retreats, like what was going on, and be the whole idea of like, okay, now get in the observer, let go of, whatever the small self or however they were putting it in. And it's like, all right, now let go of the meditator, and now like
Mm.
and there's like all these layers they take you through. But this sounds like it's a little. So how would you do? How would that you pull that off in a meditation, so to speak? Your is there a unique? Are there a specific focus to clearing out the filter, or is it just happening by in part through the process of just observing, or is it a combination? Or I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm getting to first off, I want to talk about the combination of meditation and energy, and then maybe we could do a practice meditation, a really short one. So first off, I want to just like you, I was terrible at concentration. So I remember just when I first got there, I like get in my meditation posture. I, put on for like 5 minutes and it'd be feel like torture. I'd look over and I'm like, oh my God, only 5 seconds passed by. I'm never gonna
Right,
get through it. Yeah,
right, right.
that was me.
Yeah, for me, even a minute, I'm like, wait a minute, is it what 20 times it felt like is the minute over yet?
Yeah, yeah. So I've been there. Look, number one rule of meditation, don't judge your meditation, as they always say, back to the breath, or whatever your concentration object. But so what I found out, what I learned, this was my own intuition figuring out. I learned that I had to get my energy way up. Like I was like, all right, I gotta, eat a good breakfast. I gotta exercise pretty rigorously, maybe in a coffee. So I was stacking right from the beginning a bunch of energy tools. And then I sat down to meditate, and then I'd make a little bit of progress. And then I kept doing that. And then I kept adding more and more things to get my energy up. There's a lot of different ways to raise your energy, because our energy level affects how we perceive reality. It's like, there's also, I want to really talk about things. There's like amount of energy, which is what most people think, but then flavors of energy.
Mhm,
So that's another thing that I teach is so like even unbound and bound. So even being able to name an energy is able to ability to evoke it, especially if you have a lot of direct experience with unbound energy. Like if you don't have a lot of direct experience, it's probably be difficult to evoke, but once you have, it's easier to go back.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
which is why there was a period in my life where I was a psychonaut where I did psychedelics. I don't really do them anymore, but I think they're a bridge technology. I think only if they're used very strategically, they can give you a jump. So they can give you an experience of not being your regular way, which can inspire you to have other practices to stabilize it outside of that environment.
Mhm.
Um, so so let's get into one of the things that I've experienced, would you be okay if I give you an experiential experience?
Sure,
Yeah,
yeah,
so yeah,
absolutely. That's fun, yeah.
I'll be curious. Yeah, so I found out that there's this quick test that you can find out where you can quickly get more energy. So all I'm going to do is ask you to be in two different positions, and I'm going to ask you what your experience is, and just to notice that and reflect on it, and then I'll help you interpret it. So if you were to close your eyes and put your hands over your heart and just focus on what it's like to be in this position and what adjectives would you use to describe in this position, and on a scale of 1 to 10, how energized you're, with 10 is like really low, and I mean 1 is really low and 10 is like super enthusiasm.
For me, a 9 right now. Like I just feel a lot of my physical energy is lower than that, but the core energy feels like a 9.
Okay, and what adjectives kind of come up?
Joy, love, fun come to mind. What's interesting then that if I stay there, right, like this probably is common, like then my energy drops down to my lower power center and it's like what did it say? Oh, I'm sad, I'm lonely. What's good? Are we done yet? And like
Okay, all
yeah.
right. So all right, so it was a mix. I mean, it didn't
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Then you become aware of other energy that's going on,
yeah,
right?
all right. So I mean, as you kind of All right, let's before I deconstruct it, let's try another position. Let's do the exact opposite. Put your hands way up in the air and look
Okay.
up and out, like up and out. And what is it like to be up here?
It doesn't feel good. It feels like I'm leaving my body. I don't want to leave my body.
Okay.
Yeah.
And which so it causes a lot of anxiety or just yeah.
No,
Well,
it's
you
just
tell
like,
me.
no, I don't want to go up there.
You don't want to go up there. Okay.
Yeah, that's
And
what comes
how?
to
So
mind.
what energy number would you have?
6.
6. Okay. And what adjectives would you describe other than up here?
Um, Excited, frustrated, lame.
Well, look where your eyes are doing. You're not doing the exercise. You gotta
Oh, yeah,
stay out. You gotta
oh,
stay out.
okay. Okay.
St Stay out for just a second.
All right. And I don't know. If I keep looking up, then I'm like, okay, I feel joy. I feel sense of some joy. Um, Uplifting, powerful, frenetic that comes to mind.
Okay, put your hands down. All
Okay.
right. No, you noticed it was interesting the way it happened for you is because you kind of the more you stayed in each of the position, I felt like you kind of were actually there. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, did you what did you notice?
Well, I guess I was trying to do my interview and look back down at the camera. I don't know
Oh,
why.
okay. All right,
Finally,
yeah.
but yeah, it's once I started to focus up, then maybe that was part of. Maybe that was a portion of the equation why I didn't want to look up. I'm like, no,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
doing my job. I'm supposed to look at
Oh,
the.
sorry.
Maybe that was
Yeah.
influencing a little bit. So,
Well, I'll just say what I noticed and is that in terms of like the level you spoke at, you were way like even when you were here, when you were saying words like the pleasurable ones that you weren't like super energized. You were
yeah,
like
yeah,
kind of like in the middle.
yeah,
But when you got up here and you stayed, you were a little scared at first, but you kind of got into it. Your energy did go way up.
yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
if you
yeah,
noticed
yeah.
that. And that's
Enthusiasm went up.
pretty
Yeah.
pretty typical of people. Um, and I'm going to explain to you what's kind of going on there. There's a referencing point when you're inside, you're kind of referencing the past. This is like going inside, and this is more an inside, and this is like referencing the future or getting like way outside of yourselves. A lot of time, our bound energy or traumas are from the past. And so when we're energetically are focused more on the past, we tend to reference those layers of our psyche. But when we get way outside of ourselves and we focus on the future, there's a lot more energy there. Like
Right.
if I just even asked you flat out, like if you had how much energy is in thinking about your making your wildest dream happen versus like focusing on filtering through like a traumatic past.
Yeah,
Do you
it's night and day. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So that's the point I try and help people do is I help people focus. And I know that purpose is a huge part of what you do, and I'm totally aligned with that because when somebody has like a purpose to their life and they're able to focus on that, their energy goes way up. But there's
Mhm.
also something to it about like being outside of yourself. I used to, when I first got taught meditation, they actually said do three-quarters eyes, where you kind of have your eyes
Mhm.
mostly closed, but a little bit of light in. It
Uh-huh.
didn't really work for me. My meditation practice took off when I accidentally discovered opening my eyes was way better for me personally. And because I put myself later, when I studied with my Donnie Epstein, I realized because I'm very external, and the more I focus on the future, the more happier I get. And people who are more external like that also tend to be like service oriented. Do you like to help people?
Sure. Of
Yeah,
course.
of course. Yeah, yeah. Look at your face just lit up. So it's
Yeah.
like when you think about like helping people in the future and you make every moment like now is like part of that. We're helping people now, sharing our wisdom. And so when I just think about that, it puts me in my joy and I get like the energetic. So I want to remember we talked about flavored energies. So there's the energy between the observer and what you're observed creates an energy. It's like a feeling, that's what feelings are. It's like the relationship between two parts. I mean, life is based on that's like the primordial thing is like we're all having relationships with life itself, and that's God knowing itself through us as we are God. Well, my story is we're all God doing that, but I do believe there is parts of God that aren't in a body too. So I do believe there are layers to it, and some people I call them meta layers. What I would observe, and I believe in the Trinity actually is a really brilliant thing. It's referring to the three layers. I would describe it as like the personality is like, like the man, is like is and all the traditions have
Yeah.
trinities. It's not just
Yeah.
Christianity, but
Mm,
that's kind of like us being in our defense patterns. Our defense patterns shape us because the defense patterns, like think about it, it's like something traumatized us. We come up a way to defend it, and it's like about safety. It's about life and death, really, and that shapes us because we what's called particularizing. We now start to view the world through that lens of how we uh, protect ourselves, and that's why we're all kind of a little bit different. It's part of the reason, not the only reason, but it's because we all have different things that shape us. And then there's like personal metacognition, which is the part of us that can reflect on what we're actually doing. So that's like our
mhm,
own metacognition. That's like our soul. Our soul is the metacognition. It's guiding us. It's some part of us is watching us do things and being like, I don't know, is that the best choice? I don't know. And
mhm,
then there's the father, which is like the collective metacognition. So
mhm,
I see it as like another layer of reality, which I do firmly believe in. And interestingly enough, I was agnostic most of my life until I started meditating. Once I got started bringing in that unbound energy, lots of mystical things started happening to me, left and
mhm,
right. And then I was like, I don't know, it's not a physical world. It's not random. I started to realize that when I went for my dreams, when I, and I started to bring in this unbound energy, that's where the mysticism kind of started happening for me.
mhm,
Um, yeah.
mhm. Interesting, because I mean, I could say I agree with, like, do I agree or not? It's interesting about our consciousness too. Or like, do I agree? Do I like this or do I not like this? Do I
Oh,
agree?
yeah.
Disagree, right? So, but I could say I agree. But then part of me is like, well, wait a minute, you said I believe a number of times. Well, I believe, but then we go really deep. We're like, what is that all about? We don't, you believe, that doesn't mean anything. It's like, it's just what you believe. You know what I mean when I'm pointing into absolute truth. When we get to absolute truth, we don't know anything. That's the biggest thing with not ascension, maybe, or whatever. I don't know. Ascension's a concept to me, but like for enlightenment, like I don't know anything. Is I always confess that. At the end of the day, I don't know anything. I'm just down here horsing around having a good time. Hopefully,
Yeah. Well, that's a
activity
really
as
important
well.
point,
But
actually.
yeah, so I don't know. That's what just came up for me when he kept saying
Yeah.
I believe. I was like, yeah, I believe that too. But then a part of me is like, yeah, but I don't know either. I don't know, and I'm good with that. I'm like, I don't know. But
Well,
they're interesting concepts to orient us for sure.
yeah, great. So not saying I don't know is beautiful. It shows that you have a very advanced ability on the openness line of development. And that's arguably one of the most important ones, if not the most important ones, because if you see things fixed, then
Mm,
you're going to be stuck. And in fact, I would say that's arguably the number one reason I think humanity is a little bit stuck where we're at. There's a little bit too many people who have a very fixed understanding. They've got exposed to a certain way of looking at things through maybe a religion or their country's beliefs or their family's beliefs, and they use it for safety. And so then they don't have enough, in my opinion, they don't have enough energy or insights to get out of that kind of trap. And there's different people who are stuck in that same developmental zone, but with different understandings, and then they're clashing. And
right.
so, uh, uh, the goal of what I think the ways that we can get out of this is to start to understand. First, I want to go back to what you just said, but believing and knowing. So I think there is a healthy way to balance those two, which
Mm,
is this is how I do it. Sometimes I say believing because I also want to invite people into conversations. I'm here to, I think, getting out of this, I'm right and you're wrong, and
right.
getting us into like maybe we could discuss it and then maybe discuss how we're deciding this is better or worse
Mm,
and agree to disagree, or maybe there's a way to come, because I think that's where we're going to collective ascension is going to happen.
mm,
Um, and
mm,
so we can find safety in a conflict resolution. I'm very passionate about conflict resolution and using new tools of understanding mind and energy to do that. So So I'm getting to yeah. So so I but oh yeah. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. The so I think the way that works for me is like yes, I'm always open. If some better information comes, I will consider that. And as I'm gathering information, I have some opinions that are more formed and more solid. Like the one is I just if I'm speaking them now, I'm probably they're probably in my I think this is true right now.
Right.
This is my best guess right now. Otherwise, I
Right.
wouldn't be
Right.
talking about it. So I
Right.
mean, if I'm saying believe to open up the conversation, but I'm saying these distinctions work for me and work for my
Right.
clients. Um, and so I think that's a healthy way of doing is it's what the Buddhists have recognized. They call it interdependent origination, which means that we only see truth based on how we are. So if we're not
Mhm.
reflecting on how we are in the filters of our lens, then we're going to stay stuck. So that's why that third lens, that reflective piece is big, and not everyone knows how to access that or access that strategically and intelligently. And how do we do that as a group? I feel like these are the kinds of tools and techniques that are going to up level the humanity. The collective as ascension is can we start talking about these things? We're in this interesting time with YouTube and the internet where there's all these pockets and people are considering all these different perspectives on ascension or UFOs or conspiracies or the left or the right or even variations on it. There's a lot of, it's an interesting time. It's very diverse in some ways. So what's the next coherent level? Which I think is important. I think if somebody said to me, Jonathan, why do you think is the real problem in all of humanity? Would I say it's like climate change or nuclear wars? I'd say it's none of those things. I'd say developmentally, the people on the planet have gotten to an interesting place where there's so many different worldviews on the planet right now, they're clashing and they don't know how to get coherence and it's causing chaos.
Mm.
And that's that's causing, but there's actually a new way of looking at life that actually will free us. And Ken Wilber calls it like the integral consciousness, which is this where
Yes.
we become self-aware of some of the more important patternings
Mhm.
that really
Mhm.
dominate us. Uh,
Mhm.
then and one of the patterns is the one that what Ken calls true but partial, that we're all seeing life as we are. So our truth is true for us, but it's also partial because we're, like Plato's cave. We only can see Plato's cave means like we only have the information that we have.
Right.
So if we can get a little bit more openness. And the other big reason I think humanity's stuck is an unawareness of these defense patterns. Is one of the things I focus on most with my students. I basically help them get aware of what their particular flavor. There's really good archetypes that help do that, and I use a lot of like testing. So people will take tests, and I'll help people understand what they mean, and then how to integrate it in their life. So if you can help people get aware of their primordial defense patterns, become self-aware of them, and then they have enough critical distance from them where they use the meditation techniques where they can choose not to follow them anymore.
Mhm.
Then something else opens up. Then they get to presence, which is beautiful. But then we can combine. I take that a little step further. A lot of Buddhism ends there. Let's just get them to presence. But my background's in organizational development. And so in there, they're always like, like how can you get us to a lot of it's associated with business, but it's really just codes for people getting along well together
Mm.
in groups. So it's like, how can you get us to where we want to go, like our vision, our mission? So I would like help them, like, okay, well, if you're going to want to get to that place, you're going to want to use these strategies. So
Mm.
that's what I help my students do is like, let's get out of your defense patterns, because if you're in your defense patterns, you can't get into a more strategic, proactive way of being. And then let's find out what your purpose is, your dream, your vision, and then figure out what that next step looks like, over
Yeah.
the next 3 or 4 steps, and then energize them. Like, what energies would you need?
Right. Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah, and one of the defense patterns could be, I'm not saying I was using it there when I said, well, what if it's just all beliefs? But that also can be a defense pattern. Well, we don't know anything anyway, so
Yeah.
screw everything, like just whatever happens, happens, like we don't know what's true. We don't know anything. So we may as well just go about our merry way and just let everything just be the way it is. And I know like through the readings, readings of my with the hand analysis is what I'm trying to say. Like that came up, like that was in there, like for me, like I could be that person, like on the shadow side, like my defenses. Hey, none of it really matters ultimately, anyways. So who cares, you know? Like,
Going all nihilism, huh?
yeah, and I
Yeah.
have been in those spaces at
Yeah.
times, I'm sure,
It's
in my
okay.
life. That's been my pattern, you know. It's baked right into who I am for whatever reason in this lifetime, right?
Yeah, I
So
mean, there's nothing wrong with that. People go in there. It's part of,
yeah,
God's goal is to know what life is. So that's a
yeah,
perspective to consider for sure.
yeah, yeah. So, but I'm never happier there. You know, I'm really not.
Yeah.
Ultimately I'm way happier being like, man, like let's experience some of the drama of life. Let's get in there. All right, let's mix it up. Let's feel some of all these different energies. That's
Yeah.
ultimately way funner than just like, yeah, I am one with the one and everything. I've really made fun of that at times. I mean, too,
Yeah.
like I've been in different phases again of my life. And I've made fun of that. These crystal gazers, these one, I'm one with the ones. Screw all that. Let's manifest. Let's do this. Let's do that. Like, so it's been quite a journey for me. I know. So I love like you're looking at it in all these different ways. You know, the whole thing, yeah, the people coming in with all these different patterns, worldviews, belief systems, and yeah, and then we're also getting so connected through technology and whatnot that it's like, okay, we're a global tribal community now. How do we get along? We're all hanging out together. This doesn't make any sense, right? And
Yeah.
even the people that are our neighbors we normally get along with, but now, well, you like Biden, I like Trump. Screw you! I'll never talk to you for the rest of my life. Whereas in the
Yeah.
old days, they'd be like, well, you like who you like, whatever. I don't care, still love you. You know, I'm just saying, like that's. I'm not saying it's black and white here either. Like some, it's still people still get along, but there's more where, you know, let's screw you. You're like, you don't know how to
Yeah.
go.
No, no, it's very common.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'd love to talk about like some Donnie Epstein has these what I call 6 levels of
Yeah.
uh primordial intelligence. So he's got like some of the gift that Ken Wilber has, which he can take the complexity and break it into some distinctions. I think it's a really powerful model. And I use it a lot, and I want to explain it to get into exactly what you're talking about,
Okay,
because
cool.
that's what stimulated this thought.
Good.
So there's the first lowest energy. All these intelligences are important. They're all good. They're all needed, but are we using them optimally is the kind of the question. So the first before we can ask whether we're using them optimally, we need to know what they are. So the first level is survivor intelligence. So there's some part of us that just keeping us alive.
Mhm.
It's just it's there to make sure we don't die or die before we're meant to serve our soul's purpose. And if it's used strategically, it's only comes on when you really need it. And we're going to come back to that one because that intelligence is important. I mean, they're all important, but I'm going to talk about each of them have shadow elements. So the shadow element of that one is we're overusing it, and I'm going to explain why we're all overusing it, and that's one of the primordial problems. So the second one is called the reactor. The reactor is just like emotions and intelligence. It's like I feel something, and when a reactor is working really well, you basically get a feeling, a sensation, and you feel it fully. Like right, it comes in, and you can take it all in, and then your consciousness can choose how to do what to do with it. Great, but I'm going to tell you, unless you're like a super enlightened Buddha, uh, you're not using it fully. And I'm going to tell you why in a second. In order to understand why, it has to do with the third intelligence, which is lower mental. Lower mental's intelligence is good, bad, right, wrong. It's about boundaries. It's about making distinctions. Critical intelligence, we absolutely need it. However, as we go, now these energies kind of grow up one after another. Uh, as we start to make, as a little child, we start to make certain feelings wrong or bad, or or stories even like I can't experience it. That's unacceptable, right? And that's when the
Right.
survivors got to come in and create up a program, because it feels like psychic death, and that is because we made a lot of certain feelings at certain intensity levels as wrong, and we're not feeling it. And when you can't feel the low, you can't feel the high. And as soon as we start to get into something that feels like it's going to put us near into those lows, the defense pattern just comes on board and it takes over. And then the person's no longer with reality as it is. They're just in a conditioned pattern. And this is why conflict exists. If you had to give me one reason why humanity is in conflict, it's that. that dynamic's going on over and over and over and over again. And it's time our species gets fully aware that that's happening and makes it a priority. If we make it a priority to stop getting in that pattern, um, are that I think the whole species could change like forever,
Mhm.
and get into the higher. So those are only 3 of the 6. So those are like the first tier ones, and then I'm going to get into the second tier intelligence. But I'm going to pause and see if you have questions first. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
uh, sort of. I mean, I'm kind of tracking with you. So, but I mean, definitely this last thing you just said, for example, makes total sense. I mean, that there's things that we won't access because we might be too vulnerable then, and we could be a danger of something, right? Something could be a danger if we get angry, and maybe people get angry at us, so maybe it's going to be a problem. I mean, we get sad, maybe we'll be punished even, or we'll be seen as weak, or so there's so many, or it's just wrong. You shouldn't cry, right? Boys shouldn't cry, like for
Right.
guys, like for example, or you're just a hysterical, you're just a hysterical person or whatever. Like, so yeah, I totally get that. So yeah, in a way, totally everything made sense. Um, I think you're trying to cover probably these concepts kind of quick, so I'm like fascinated to hear the depth of it. We aren't going to have time today, but I'm
Oh,
like, oh,
right.
I learned more. Basically, is where I'm at. I'm like, okay, tell me more.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was great. I think I do want to you did say it's interesting you mentioned crying because I was accused of being a really sensitive kid and calling crybaby until I got enough humiliation that I decided not to do that, and I created a defense pattern to start out thinking what happened and from multiple perspectives so that I wouldn't feel like I had to cry. So that was how an avoidance strategy. Um, However, that the good each defense pattern has strengths and weaknesses. So the fourth intelligence is called multiple perspectives.
Mhm.
And that's just like our ability to see things from multiple lenses, creativity, perspective taking, optimizing. So then we can instead of seeing it one way, good or bad, we're like, I don't know, I see it like 10 ways, and I'll pick the one that's most useful now. So that's
Yeah.
like a more intellectual, more intelligent way. And the more it's a superpower to have that. And so so that's a really important intelligence, and I think the jump we're moving as a species of rooted in right and wrong, good and bad versus the upper mental. So I'd say if you ask me where are we as a species, we're kind of in between those two. It's an important place to be. It's important recognition because I think we're at a tipping point. I know a lot of people see this as a crazy time, but I think the craziness is an opportunity for us to like make some adjustments. And so I'm getting to talk about the other two intelligences, but then maybe we could talk about how to make that jump. Um, so the last two are transpersonal intelligences, the spiritual intelligences. When you start to bring in this unbound energy, and there's lots of ways to do it, but there's something called the soul intelligence. And the soul intelligence is really just the metacognition who's observing you. You're connecting to it like consciously or even unconsciously, and it gives you like a instruction. And sometimes that instruction is like, go here, read this book, or sometimes it'll say like the opposite thing just to provoke a reaction in you. And then you get to, oh, yeah, I didn't really want that. It's a very creative intelligence. It's like, but its goal is to pattern interrupt what you are currently doing. So and so, I think this is what all the mystics, we talked about Christ consciousness earlier. Like, what is it? It's more and more ability to access the soul intelligence, and the higher intelligence beyond that is called the weaver. And the weaver is like the father, the collective meta intelligence, and the weaver's job is to create synchronicities. It's like Daniel and Jonathan needed to talk today, specifically today at this time, and it brought us together. So that's kind of like the weaver. And so when you have names for them and you're kind of familiar with them, you can kind of evoke them and use them more consciously. Uh,
Mm,
and so the goal is to one of the things I is help people understand that these higher intelligence are there and there are protocols to accessing them more, even by naming them and having some experiences with them. And that's kind of what I part of what I teach people is how to recognize when they're in a defense pattern and then consciously choose to, okay, let's choose a different energy that's going to be to meet the situation. Um, but the last thing I wanted to do before I hand it back to you is I want to talk about direction of energy because most people are observing they're oriented in the past and trauma. You know,
mm,
I don't know about you, but I talk to people as like, you know, as soon as like stuff in the Middle East heats up, the people will say things like, "That's it. You know, there's going to be wars for another 100 years. We're never going to learn. You know, World War III is inevitable. You know, it's like
right,
all that
right.
stuff just happens up.
Gotta
I talk
happen. Gotta happen, right?
Yeah,
I almost
this
feel
is
like people
history.
want it to happen. It's like, why do you keep saying it's gotta happen? I, you don't know. I mean,
Yeah, well, they're sourcing from the past.
yeah,
So
yeah,
if
yeah.
to me, one of the biggest solutions is we orient towards the future. What if we all believed that everything's going to be epic?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, this is kind of like the hope of the second coming of the Christ he represents is that he's going to come back and bring heaven to earth. Uh, to me, that's just like let's give us reasons for optimism and to focus on a better future. Actually, that as somebody who's into social psychology, if we all believe that we're all going to create a better world and we have some protocols to get us there, then we will, because that's it. It's really this is where idealism meets practical reality. And my thing is like we get the mindset right on a collective level, and we have the actual tools of transformation, and we spread them widely. Then there's no reason we can't make that jump beyond good and bad, right and wrong, into a world where we can accept multiple perspectives peacefully,
Mm,
deal with our shadows. I think to me, it's like, what? How do people need to be? I'm like, well, are they killing anyone? Are they stealing things? All right, they're peaceful people working their stuff out. They're a regular human.
mhm,
I'm very tolerant. There's very few, but we do need a universal morality that is clear and enforceable. I mean, imagine if there was no more wars, or we
mm,
got rid of psychopaths and stealing. Just imagine how much energy would free up to solve other problems. So if I was had a lot of as an influencer, I would, try and pinpoint what are the high leverage things that can get us to that place that can free us up the energy to then tackle other problems.
When you say get rid of, though, I mean, how are you going to get rid of psychopaths? What do you mean by that?
All right, great. This is remember I talked about like doing a meditation. I'd like to, if, with your permission, can we do like a really short meditation
Yeah,
here?
yeah,
Uh,
sure.
this is not a concentration meditation. This is a pointing out instruction. This is,
Okay.
again, I want to give your listeners a real experience of being like what Buddhism would say is your true face. So
Mm,
what if you're just it doesn't matter where you're listening. You're looking out in front, like I'm looking at my laptop. I'm
mhm,
seeing Daniel. I'm seeing my keys. You're just seeing like see regular mind. I just want to ground us in like what the difference. We're going to do contrast to make a point. But what if you imagine that everything is coming in through your five senses, or if you want to bring in intuition, sixth sense, and it's
mm,
coming onto a screen, like consciousness, a lot of people call it. But consciousness itself is actually lucid, clear, and visible, and it's creating a picture in your mind.
mhm,
You see what I'm saying? And so now I want you to kind of everyone close your eyes. Even I'll give you permission to close your eyes for a second, and I'll close my eyes. And now you might notice that like, the visual field's totally different, but sometimes this view is helpful. Now, if you can find this invisible field that's holding everything. So the consciousness is the place that holds your experience always. And so most people associate who they are with their stories about themselves. But the shift that gives you more energy is actually what if you identified as being this lucid, clear field that collects your information as your true self. And everything else that comes into your field is temporary. Um, that, and if you can find the part of you that's just watching and listening, and separate that from anything else that occurs. If you have a thought, notice that the observer is different from the thought. If you feel something, the observer is the one observing, it's not actually the feeling. And that starts to this fusion where you can start examining your relationship to different thoughts and feelings, which opens up for new perspectives and transformations. So open your eyes. So I would suggest what that's pointing to is a shift from seeing life as your stories about life to actually just being a witness and being in this, what you said, like not knowing, but also like allowing yourself to have temporary conclusions. But if you haven't, the Buddhists call it reification or attachment. If you don't make it solid, you're open and you just allow new information to come into your field, then whatever. You don't, you have separation from it. It's like whatever. It's just a new idea. I can consider it or I can not, instead of being like in reactive thing where you don't even get to hear the arguments. So let me pause there. What was that like for you? Did you get a sense of what I was talking about being the field, the consciousness instead of the stories?
Yeah, it's so funny, and I do these back-to-back interviews. Sometimes both speakers are saying things that I haven't been hearing lately, and they're both saying similar things in different ways. So it just happened today. Uh,
Wow. It's interesting
yeah,
synchronicity.
he was talking about Dr. Ron. He was talking about um, briefly. I'll just mention this. He said he recommends. He's a creativity guy. He
Hmm.
does a lot with creativity. He's got a lot of expertise in that area as a psychologist and whatnot or whatever. So he was talking about like to increase creativity. One of the things he recommends people do is to listen to various music that has a bunch of components in it, but listen through to hear just one aspect of it, right?
Mm.
Just listen to the drums one time through, then listen to the singer or whatever. Just listen to. And he says like doing that really helps to um strengthen your ability to focus, I guess he was saying, and enlivens your mind is kind of what I got out of it, like
Yeah.
creative potential too gets evoked in that. And that's what I was sort of getting out of this exercise, even though it seems like it's different, it's similar to me. It's like, hey, pay attention to this now, pay attention to that, and then you do that, it's like art. It's like, oh no, we've started to paint this picture, then a new picture, and for me, like another image comes in then afterwards, right? That image would not have popped into my field if I wasn't paying attention to this first, and then that, and then this. So that's what I experienced. That was what was cool.
Yeah, great. Yeah, it's the separation. The music analogy is amazing. Because I'm I had a period of time where I got like nerdy about audiophile, I guess I was for a while, and I got like a Grado headphones and they have more separation. And I had an amplifier. And so the amplifier uh, allowed for more of that dynamism in the music where you could hear the different instruments. And there you could see there's a lot more going on in music when you have the high quality uh, techniques. And the same thing's going on in everybody's mind. So it's the perfect analogy, really. This is why I studied with a chi teacher. I've got a lot of energy influences because when you will get more energy, it's just shining more light on your mind and then you can see what's going on and then you could find out that your energy is drained because you find out your observer's obsessed with a certain thought that had to do with a trauma that you weren't haven't processed yet, and that's all you got to do is shine a little bit more light in there, a little bit more energy, some new energetics, and take like a different perspective, maybe a longer term perspective, and be like, okay, instead of being mad about that, what did you learn from it? Maybe you're here to learn, you're the ultimate reality learning, and that's part of life. That's a pattern of life, is we're here to learn. You can change your whole relationship to it, and then there's a new energy to it. Instead of being like, I hate life, I feel like a victim, it's like, oh, just another thing that made me a better person. And so those kinds of processes of just picking apart different parts of our own mind, both individually and collectively, is the path forward. This is where I get very practical. It's like I don't think like if Jesus comes back, or one person comes back and just magically change things. All that person could do is point out what's actually going on in the world. I mean, this is my opinion, and people might disagree with it. From my perspective, all you could do is point out is what's happening and suggest better ways.
Mhm.
And so, from my perspective, if we're going to get into I believe we're on the tipping point of like unlimited like potential and energy, and we're just at that point. So it's a very, for me, I'm extremely optimistic, and I'm of the mind that when we teach people the practical techniques of them being a better them and them getting along with other people, that's it. That's all we need. Because humans run the planet, for the most part. I mean, the other thing like spirit. But what if we can connect
What
to the
about
spirit
those
also?
psychopaths?
Right, right. Well, they're people too.
Those people.
Right. Well, a lot of people think the Illuminati or whatever they want to call them, they have stories about oligarchs. There are people have an enormous amount of power. That's just the truth.
Yeah.
And so, but without like getting into like conspiracy talk, they're
Mhm.
also just people. If there are oligarchs and they think it's their job to run the planet, all I'm talking about is like making people better people. We're gonna learn to be independent. If people think governments have too much power, I do, and I've worked for the government. I don't think the government. I'm a weird dude who not anti-government or necessarily super pro-government.
Mhm.
Government's just an organization to get people organized, right, and make efficient life. It's not really let's stop just labeling it as it's like the quality of the organization, and just if we have a more energized organization that's more aligned with the values and less corrupt because people are higher energy beings. And what I mean by higher energy beings, I mean they're using less of their defense patterns and more of connecting to this dream of us all peacefully rising together and bringing that in through intelligent patterns of life.
Yeah.
I kind of like get that's where I ground the spiritual and the physical.
Yeah, just like when I was talking to Dr. Ron, he talked about as, he talked about musicians, and when one goes to a higher level of creative potential and flow and doing what they're doing, then the person next to them might, and others
Yeah.
are joining, and then before you know it, like every band that night is playing on stage, and the whole audience is in a flow, and even the greatest psychopath in the world might shift. We don't know, like,
Well,
because
yeah. I
you
think what you
don't
just
know it's
said was
possible.
passionate truth. No, I actually believe it's one mind. I believe we're all cookie characters in a God
Yeah,
mind.
yeah,
That would be
totally.
my story. And
That'd be
so,
totally my story too. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we're all and so, and yes, I do believe we can have a cultural fit. So here, I'm glad you brought up the psychopath thing because I wanted to tie the psychopath thing with the exercise I just did,
Yeah.
because the key, it does, from my perspective, and is the more you can get whoever the person is to stop disidentifying with their who they think they are and they start realizing they're just space and they can change their basis of operation even a little an experience, maybe a psychopath on a high dose of psychedelics that's supervised with a really powerful healer or shaman who really knows what they're doing can give them an experience of being something other than their story. And then that little light is now you got something to work with.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, the core problem is people's identity is diffused with their defense pattern, their ideas. That's again, the Buddhists call it sense of self. They have a
Mhm.
fixed sense of self rather than an
Mhm.
open sense of self. So what I teach is how can we have an open sense of self and an enlarged sense of self. So I don't just think as like what's good for Jonathan. I include myself, of course, but I'm like, how can I be of service of to humanity in general and the earth and the ecosystem and be in alignment with all the parts.
Mhm.
And because the the mental realm is very powerful, and I believe all these, remember I talked about the three layers of like personality, individual metaconscious, collective metaconscious, they're all one mind at one level, so they can actually communicate. A lot of people don't believe that, and I used to be in that camp, but after I did these spiritual practices, I found out no way. Though you can clearly connect to those. And my model is it's a data stream that's going back and forth. That
Right.
that collective intelligence is collecting information from everyone,
Right.
and it's like coming up with conclusions.
Uploads and downloads.
Yeah, uploads and downloads, exactly. So that's
Yeah.
kind of how I see it, and I think that's a more coherent model. How would one question is going to be, how would we know, how would you assess whether something's right or wrong, good or bad? To me, it's like, what are your values? You know, it all comes down to value. You can't assess something unless you have certain values. So to me, I'm here, I'm a peace activist, and I want as many people to feel like abundant, multidimensionally abundant, not just money, but you
Mhm.
know, joy. They have a good life. They have good intimacy. They have good people. They do things. They have adventure.
Mhm.
They're peaceful to other beings. You mentioned the middle path, which is, I think, that's. I don't know if we want to get deep into what that means, but in Buddhism, but it's about like how deeply do you know that this is like your mind versus a collective mind, and the middle path is to respect all everyone else and know that you know you're them and it's your mind and they're also separate and we need to be good to our other God friends.
Mhm. Oh, wow. Yeah, these days people are like, don't be in the middle. You just jump right or left. Hey, ha, ha, ha. The polarization brings us
Oh,
deeper into the middle path, though, ultimately, in my view. So,
well, I mean, here's what I would say to that. I would say experience have a safe experiences of both ends and then pull back and assess, you know. That would be healthy, you know. It's like how can you safely be with the full range of experience, and then so if you're just jumping in the middle and you're not experiencing the full range, that's going to cut you off. But if you're
yeah.
able to in a safe ways experience the range of a perspective, and then you're getting in the fullness before you make any more solid decisions.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I totally disagree with that path, but I'm not willing to learn more about the path I disagree with.
Yeah.
So, so how can you do that? You don't even really understand it, most likely. So, so great. Yeah. And how many times have we changed our mind through our life? Plenty, trust me, if you think about it, right? Lots of
Yeah.
times. Yeah. Especially people listening in here are people are more open-minded overall.
Yeah.
So, so this is phenomenal because you could think about the possibility, like you said, of even a cycle. Because you got to understand my training. We were told basically in psychology, psychopaths forget about. They just are the way they are. You can't really do anything for them. I mean, pretty much you can't, you know. And so when we introduce the idea, well, but what? Wait a minute, maybe we can. Maybe we can. What about, you know? And so when we think about that, there's so many problems people feel they have, right? Things that they deal with in the world in their individual life, like we've been talking about collectively, but then everybody's individual problems. I, I, I don't have support. I have it's just me and my kid. I gotta figure out how to pay the mortgage, or I
Yeah.
got horrible health, or I can't believe I just got this divorce. They just left me out of the blue, or whatever it is. Like it's an impossible situation. Whatever it is, you just could never see it through. But part of you wants to hope you could, right? Um, the what I feel like what we're pointing into here is through what you're sharing is you can open up your consciousness so that in a way where a path is automatically given to you, you know, our way is made, you know, like for those that are seeking a way in their life, not only to higher consciousness and ascension, right? Heaven on earth, the state of being, which is always, of course, we would say primary, right? But
Hmm.
also like the things that the mind craves for, you know, coming from that state of being, right? And then so, but that's what you're doing by through the work that you're doing is the way I'm hearing it today, because I want to kind of synthesize everything here
Yeah.
that kind of accurate? What else would you like to fill in? Yeah, what would you
Yeah. Well, let's ground it a little bit deeper. So yeah, so I'm kind of hearing like what if you're like you're new and you where do you start with all this?
like?
So yeah, what I teach my students, whether it's a one-on-one thing or a course, is I would start with what gives you more energy? You know, do you have a purpose? Like focusing on things that give you more optimism, is a good place to start. Like what gets you out of bed, and get going? That's a good place to start. And then I would say, focusing on your mind and like starting to notice a little bit about what are some patterns that you're kind of sick of. Because
Mm,
I'm going to tell you one of the most important secrets of transformation. Nobody really makes a big change until they get to what's called this enough of this moment. And I said that
mm,
with some energy because you got to be sick of something to really make a
okay.
big change. Those are the kind of people those people are ready for a change. If you're kind of like, it's not painful enough that you're like, I could endure that for a little bit more. In order to really make a real deep rooted change, you kind of got to get to that place where you got that big energy of like, I don't want to do that anymore. And then the universe will respond. So there is higher powers. And when you tell the universe you're sick of a certain way of being and you ask for help and support,
Mhm,
magic is available. I mean, I do believe prayer is an important part of intention setting, and a lot of what I do is what uh, I call it like prayer 7.0 because it's like, it's a prayer, it's an intention, but it's dialed into like how does transformation actually work? So what I'll help people is like, okay, your intention is you're here and you want to go here. This is your gap. How do we energize your gap? What are the
mhm.
protocols and the processes that you're specifically going to need to do for each step? So I'll help each person dial in to where they're at. So, but if you're just kind of listening, I talk about these in my videos on my website at mozenter.com.
That's great. That's great. Now I know you offer an opportunity for people to jump into a container or whatever with you to allow them to experience more of the knowledge, wisdom, and experiences that we got a taste of today. Imagine you're just hearing this through a podcast. If you're like, whoa, this is really cool. Imagine actually getting more in-depth connection and information and work, like actually the deep work that comes with what Jonathan's talking about today. So I would love for you to share with people. We do have something we wanted to offer to you that Jonathan wants to offer to you. So I'd love to hear more about that. You have, I believe, was it Ascension Accelerator?
Yeah, Ascension Accelerator. It's a course. It's a 3-month course. And what I've done is I've studied, you talked about my bio in the beginning. I've cherry picked like the best, most important, high impact tools. And each week of the course, you're going to learn at least one tool, and then you'll learn how to stack the tools together so they amplify. And it's going to be a kind of course where it's going to be a group, and so there's going to be like a Facebook group, it's chat where people can kind of community feel to it. There'll be some practices, and people get 2 one-on-one sessions, 90-minute sessions with me. And we're going to cover a lot of the stuff we discussed. There'll be some meditation techniques. I'm just going to cherry pick the best ones and that you really need to really get started in your acceleration, and a lot of different energy techniques. There's some basic chi practices that just bring this unbound energy. What if every morning I could teach you how to bring, confident, enthusiastic optimism, and you start your day every day with that flavored energy, you bring some of that energy into you. And then I'll teach a little bit how to identify your personal defense patterns, and so how to get out of those patterns by being identified with them and see them as something that are not you, and then go on offense and pick the patterns that are going to serve for whatever you're doing in your life. And that class is normally 888, but I've got a promo code Rockstar111, and it's only 777. You get 111 off. So
Lucky, it
those
turns out it's the lucky 777.
yeah, yeah, it's
It
my
is.
favorite
It
number.
certainly is. I mean, yeah. So it's it's better. It's better than because what I'm saying is like almost like a slot machine where it comes up 777. It's like whoa, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That just comes into my mind. I know. I know that there is a lot of abundance, golden energy that's available for people in it. Truly, I mean, if you enjoy like the processes like I did, you realize, man, there's so much more to tap into. There's a wholeness that we're waking up to in this process. That's the ascension I believe that Jonathan's pointing you into. And as you get into that whole coherent field with source or unified field, whatever you want to call it. You know, again, that's where everything's available. It's like not only you feel great, you feel more like a wizard in your life. Man, I just kind of
Yeah.
an idea of what I want, and then things start happening more easily than ever before, and all the good stuff starts pouring in. So that's some of the things I could notice right away from the work you do. What are some of the things like you see for people as they work with you?
Yeah, great question. So more energy, easier ability to get out of like the patterns where you're kind of like being really negative and not productive and quickly get productive. You're like you'll learn your specific recipes and patterns for high and low energy. Uh, and then I teach people how to align with the moment. So once you've gotten out of your defense patterns, how do you go on proactive? How do you align? Like think about what energies do you need right now? And just what you're gonna people end up being more confident, more enthusiastic, more ability to be what I call use those higher energies. We talked earlier about those. So people will walk out of to feel their feelings more. So I teach people techniques to not be afraid of the feelings they were afraid of before and how to feel them. And the more you feel your feelings, the more your intuition goes bonkers because the spirit communicates to you through the feelings. So if you're blocking feel intensity levels, that's gonna limit the way the spirit can communicate to you. So that your intuition goes way up when you start using these techniques and you use them on the regular.
Do you want to meditate and make money? Let it be simple. Let it be easy. Let it be fun. Go to yoursacredpurpose.com and get your free meditate, make money meditation today. Intuition, your energy goes up, feel better, more favorable outcomes happen in your life and in the world. The tipping point starts happening in your personal universe of what you're seeing is happening. So really, I mean, honestly, there's so many great things happening in the world every single day. And you start noticing that more when you're at a higher frequency. So if you're constantly drawn back, like, yeah, let me watch more about how the whole world's going into World War III all day. I would not, unless you do it from a really clear space, you're not down the ascension path. You're probably getting caught up into it, right?
Yeah.
So not to, ignore everything. It's just whatever's going on, but you'll just notice your personal universe seems a lot different than some other people's.
Yes.
And because a lot of stuff that everybody says, this is happening, has literally does not impact you except for the story about it. Like literally does not impact
Yes.
your daily life, right? So, but your consciousness is totally impacting you every day. So upgrade that through the Ascension Accelerator, and let's change the world together, right?
Yes, that's it. That's it.
Yeah, all right.
I wanted to, you just said something so brilliant that I want to just comment on. Thing you said about being like a wizard or sorcerer or a magician.
Mhm.
I, look, life itself is a miracle. There's nobody's, in my opinion, based on what I told you before, there's no way we're ever going to explain how anything exists. So if we start from a premise, life is magic, what isn't possible? We're all magical God as far as I'm concerned. And when we start accepting that, the Buddhists would say this is the dream. This is God's dream. We're all God cookie characters in a God dream. And we start owning that and aligning with the patterns. So what makes it, in my direct experience, what makes life seem more magical is understanding its primordial patterns. They're not just beliefs because they're patterns I've repeated over and over again for myself and my clients, and it does feel like magic. The level of synchronicity that goes up when people study with me and people like you and get aligned with how life actually works, it's patterns for transformation. Yeah, there's no reason we can't all live our magical dreams together at once.
Mhm. Outstanding. All right. Well, that's fantastic, guys. Just absolutely jump on this opportunity. I don't know. I imagine the code may not last for forever and ever. So
Yeah,
go ahead. And get into it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, the class starts in in June. So people can get a hold of me through my website, mozenter.com, or Jonathan at mozenter.com. That's JONATHANMOZENTER. Or if you want to give me a call, 617-480-1258. That's a US number. And what was I say? I do also do one-on-one stuff too. So if you're curious about that, just check in with me.
Cool. You'll definitely get somebody very compassionate, very adept at supporting you wherever you're coming in from, whatever situation you're in. And I'm sure he will absolutely be able to bring you into greater wholeness, is what the word that keeps coming to me.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Alignment with what is wholeness. Yeah. And I think the people are going to change the world. Like you just said, Daniel, it's those people who are aware of the suboptimal things happening in the world, but we're going to roll up our sleeves and we're going to do it together and we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. To me, that solution is just being smart, aligning with nature's patterns is going to lead to human flourishing.
100%. Yes. All right. Awesome. So we're gonna have the promo code Rockstar 111 is in the show notes, and also the link to go ahead and take a look at the program and to go ahead and look at the details and take advantage of that opportunity. Okay, so we're gonna have all that in the show notes, and if you're wondering where are these show notes, then just go to yoursacredpurpose.com/blog, and you can look up this show right there, and look for the show notes there as well, because we're on all different platforms out there. So, all right, so we've gotten to the point of the show where we do a little tuning in with our guests. So I'm gonna do some
Oh,
my
cool.
energy scanning for 2 or 3 minutes or something to give you 2 or 3 downloads.
Sweet.
So you're ready to receive, Jonathan?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited about this.
Cool, awesome. Let's see what comes through. This is for all for you out there too, everybody. There's something in this for you. So yeah, one of the things too that kept coming up is magic. I see rabbits coming out of the hat as the symbol, and that um, there's something about you loving this magic, and I feel like it could be you have I have a wounded path with my magician myself, that I'm probably still healing, for sure. But I feel like there may be something there for you too, like they're stymied, at some point in your past. Could be past lives, could be this life as well, right? Probably both. And I'm hearing yes on that. So, because you're like, well, like you could talk really fast if you want to. You've become more centered and mindful, but you could talk really fast with the fast mind that you have, right?
Mhm.
So it's like, well, don't you see it? We could work do this, and then we're gonna build a city, and then we're gonna put this, and you got and you're like way ahead of everybody, and they're just like, what the heck? That's all way too much. Like, geez, it's kind of crazy. Like when you're like this like master builder, creative type, and you're like, come on, everybody, this is so easy and so much fun. We can do all this stuff and do it together, and then it's like where people don't want to, I'm sure you have people to friends and stuff, but like people are leaving, and you're like, what? I don't get it. This is so amazing. Why would everybody want this? And so one of the things you move through and continue to move through, probably, like I said myself, we're all moving through some, is that sense of, well, are they going to play together with me or not? Come on. And that you've gotten past the idea, like, well, they're good, they should or what, but yeah, that energy I feel a little bit. Okay, so that's one download, and I'm going to look
Mm.
at one more thing. Okay, there's a few different things coming through. I just, a matter of picking what we want to talk about. I'm going to do the disappearance of the universe. So, good book, I believe, right, by Gary Renard. But I get this whole idea, like, that you do enjoy. You're like very okay. So part of you really is intrigued by like the nihilism we talked about earlier. Part of you really loves that, like, oh yeah, just slip into the night, just And you love that. You love the idea of that, but there's a terror inside you, like, what? I don't exist. Screw that. Like, ha ha. Don't tell me this ain't real, this existence. And so there's some development there, it feels like still that wants to
Mm.
happen of increasing your willingness to fully be in contact with that. Nihilism, emptiness, disappearance of the universe, whatever. It wants to go deeper. And so that's another download I have for you. But yeah, so anyway, I just share what comes through. So those just those two downloads for you. Obviously, you're many things I could say. You're a master teacher. You've done this work for so many lifetimes, and anybody would be so lucky to be able to work with you, hang out with you, but only the enlightened ones, the people that are onto it a bit are going to work with you. Every people that just think you're off your rocker and not right or whatever. So, all
Yeah.
right. Quick reflections or thoughts someone came through.
Wow. That was awesome. I don't know, you see me. So I say that. Yeah, it was interesting. I was actually thinking about nihilism before we got on the call. So that's interesting. So yeah, you're powerful, dude. So yeah, I love that the hat, the rabbit, the hat thing, and maybe I should put that in some of my iconography for so I do rabbits are my totem animal. So really see, and magic is definitely yeah, and just also going fast, and that's a very big theme that's been coming up to me, is like basically this my soul intelligence is giving me the same, Jonathan, you were tortured in a past life, and you didn't want to be in your body so badly that it made your mind speedy so you could solve some key problems for humanity. And like we're all doing that, but it's my time to share what I've been working on all my whole life. And the message is slow down, and so you'll be a better teacher if you slow down. So it's something I'm becoming more and more aware of and practicing. So you nailed me, dude. That energy scanning is epic. So you guys, as you already know, Daniel's an epic healer. Get an energy scan, and you can get some excellent reflections and insights.
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, you have come a long way. I know, I can sense that. Like you really, really have in this lifetime, as with through all of them, of course, but like this lifetime, I see it particularly focused on. So, congrats on all the great work you're doing in the world and everything. So awesome, that's so fantastic. And everybody, if you want to check me out, just go to yoursacredpurpose.com. The first thing is just get the free meditate, make money meditation, opens up your energy, your chakras, gets you more available to the downloads of energy of abundance and money ideas and everything that just pop into your awareness as you're going through that meditation. So take advantage of that at yoursacredpurpose.com. There is an opportunity for you to get an energy scan for me on the website as well. Rock Your Sacred Purpose Energy Scan Consultation. Um, it is, I'm going to say, like, so I'm not going to hide the price. It's $500. I mean, you absolutely are going to get massive, massive downloads for me in 3 minutes or whatever we did here. Like, he's like, whoa, 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 right? And that's what I've been noticing. Like, recently I did an energy scan for somebody, and she's telling the whole world about it. So, I mean, and then she did do that session, and she's like, yeah, this was good, but not like the 3 minute one. I don't know about this one. And the next day she said, I listened back to it. I realized it's just my resistance. This was super amazing. This is so powerful. This is exactly what I needed. So, guys, don't be afraid. Okay. That's what I see is with this deeper work, sometimes we're a little hesitant and afraid. And one of the things that's helped me on my path is when people tell me, you know what? I think you're not saying yes to this just because you're a little bit afraid. Just jump on in. So it's good encouragement for all of us. If something resonates, whether it's something I said or Jonathan or whatever, then you want to, jump on that. Just be like, you know what? I'm gonna say yes to that finally and bridge that gap. So if you want to check me out, go to yoursacredpurpose.com with all that. And that's it on that. So, Jonathan, I want to give you the last word on everything. So, do you have any last words of wisdom for everybody before we close?
Well, first of all, I just want to say gratitude to Daniel for having me on this epic podcast. Last words of wisdom. Everything's going to be all right. We are on the dawning of the greatest period of human history. I know it for sure. And if you take anything away from that's the only thing that's inevitable.
Absolutely. I love it. I love that you're so optimistic. That's exactly what we need these days. And with somebody doing your type of work in the world. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful you've been on the show today.
Yeah. Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you.
All right.
And for the rest of you, keep on tuning in, and we'll keep on rocking it here at Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Till the next time. Listening to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Stay tuned for our next upcoming new episodes each Saturday. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to help us to serve you best. As a reminder, you can get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation at www.yoursacredpurpose.com to rock your sacred purpose. Goodbye for now, everybody.